Delighted to be back for the next episode of Retail Media Roundtable, where we're going to be talking about building an off-site retail media strategy that works. I'm Jason Wescott, Global Head of Commerce Solutions at WPP Media, also Chair of IAB Europe's Retail and Commerce Media Committee, and I am delighted to be joined today by Paul Dahill, Managing Director EMEA Sales at Koddi. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm very good.
Awesome.
Nice to see you.
Likewise. This is the inaugural Retail Media Impact Summit. How have you found it so far?
I love it. I was just saying, I was on stage before. I really love the format here. You've got a real mix of brands, agencies, retailers, clearly, vendors. And there's just such an emphasis on like discussion within the group rather than people on a panel having a discussion and we all just sit and watch. It's very engaging. Loved it. It's been great.
Yeah, I love that inclusive atmosphere. And like you say, you don't normally get the opportunity to kind of be in the right number of people so people are actually comfortable to share their opinions in a broader group of kind of strangers in some cases.
Yeah, because I think you've got to be conscious of numbers, right? You have like a room of 500 people. People don't want to put their hand up. That's right.
Yeah, that's the brave person who puts their hand up in front of 500. So like you said, you're fresh off the stage and you were sharing new research on the current and future state of off-site retail media. I have my copy, so thank you very much. I look forward to diving into it. So to kick things off, why is off-site such an important area of focus right now?
I think it's an evolution. I think that people are increasingly getting to a stage where they're establishing what they're doing on-site. And then when it comes to off-site, it's been around for some time, but actually when you take a deeper look at it, it's still quite nascent. And I think what comes out of the research is it's a real split when you think about some of the challenges. You know, we talk about, are the goals clear? What are you trying to get from it as a retailer yourself? Establishing that. Is the value there? And we heard from some of the brands today and some of the retailers, some of the challenges that we're going through. And it was a real kind of sharing moment. But I think it's an evolution because we realize how much of retail media is based not only on the conversions, but also on the quality of the data, right? And that first party data and the targeting and the audiences. And, you know, not to get into too much into it, we'll just come off the stage. But if you're running a connected TV campaign, I think Yara from the IAB said something like 2/3 of retail media buyers were now seeing that when they are adding in data into an offsite campaign from a retailer, it's having like a real positive improvement. So I think brands are now interested. I think retailers are interested. So yeah, this is kind of hot right now, let's say.
I think so. I would definitely agree. And I mean, it's something I'm definitely working on myself as well. And when you think about it, a lot of brands are buying this media anyway. So why not enrich it with retailer first-party data, or at least enrich a part of it? Or it could be, you know, incremental spend altogether. But, you know, particularly through social, where a lot of people spend the majority of their time. Connected TV, like you said, a lot of buzz around that channel. Something you mentioned around, are the goals clear? Because obviously for on-site, you're probably looking to drive sales. You know, how does this vary with off-site?
Yeah, I think sponsored search is definitely tied into sales usually. There can be some other aspect to it around maybe the category or winning share. But then when you move into some of the more brand executions on site as well, some of those have different objectives. And I think you just move further up the funnel as you move further into offsite. And there was a whole chart on what the kind of buyers of retail media said were some of their objectives. And it seems to be much more about that audience targeting, just as you talked about, and leaning into the value that the retailers have. You know, there was an example, I think, around, how can you establish if someone has a garden, right? and who better to tell you that than someone like Obi, right, in Germany, or Kingfisher maybe in other places in Europe. They definitely know if you've got a garden or not, and if whatever campaign it is, endemic or non-endemic, if that's part of it, then who better to tell you with that real kind of sense of accuracy.
I know, absolutely, because you are, I guess, we reveal who we are through our purchases and what we have through our purchases, right? So we can tell definitely why that for retailer first-party data is definitely the golden ticket, and that's been proven time and again with our surveys. Yep. So, for example, the Attitudes to Retail Media, survey.
I love that study.
I think
it's my favorite study.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And, first-party access to first-party data has come out, 2 years in a row as, the number one driver for increased investment in retail media.
Yeah, I think, we hear this a lot around the importance of data, right? We've just been talking about it clearly. But one of the things that came out from the report that surprised me was that there's often a narrative, and we asked the audience here, when you're buying offsite, would you prefer to kind of take the retailer's data, put it into your own seat on a DSP, and then run the campaign yourself? And actually, when we asked this group of buyers, the vast majority, I think it was more than 50%, 55%, and there was various different options, prefer to still buy from the retailer, right? So they still like the idea of either a managed service or some kind of self-serve capability. But yeah, that whole concept of, it's not so, they're actually thinking maybe I kind of want a curated approach, right? So data plus media packaged up from a retailer. And that was a surprise for me from the report.
Yeah, I think curation in general is just a very, very big theme at the moment. Yeah. And, is there anything you want to build on kind of with that through, what you do at Koddi and just what you know about, generally being in ad tech for such a long time?
Yeah, too long. I'm not sure how long at this point. I know. Oh God, we're counting in decades. We're not quite there yet. What would I say on that? I mean, I think the concept of curation is just like, it's really like a new word for something we've done before, selling media packages. I mean, how long have we been doing that, right? Yeah. When you buy something from YouTube, they'll put something together that's a certain time of day targeting plus an audience plus an environment, right? Or a kind of context, right? In terms of the sort of content you're going to be delivering against. So really, I guess retailers are just kind of mirroring that and thinking, okay, what's the right environment that we could be running this in that makes sense from a contextual perspective? What's the right data sets that we can be doing? And then what other kind of details can we be putting in? But yeah, so curation to me is a sort of fancy word for putting media packages together, right? Which I think it makes it much, your role on the agency side, right? It's when you think about your media plan or your team's media plan saying, we're buying this particular package from a retailer, see how it goes, right? And maybe it's like next time we'll try a different one or we'll buy more of that one. So I think putting it into kind of bite-sized chunks makes a lot of sense, and the research showed that those kind of curated deals are definitely interesting for retail media buyers.
Great insight, and brilliant point as well is that a lot of these things that we talk about as being new, they're not entirely new. It might be like a new spin on something, a new build on something, and it's genuinely still exciting stuff. Yeah, but yeah, it's not completely new.
Yeah. I mean, I might be wrong. People might challenge me on that and go, no idea what you're talking about. I'm ready to be challenged. Let's do it. There's a lot of that today, to be fair.
We'll see on that. And I guess that leads us nicely on to kind of challenges, because I guess we've been, talking about this in a very positive light in relation to the adoption and growth trajectories of offsite retail media. But what are the most persistent challenges that you're seeing across the industry with this shift at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, again in the research, there was no one particular challenge. It seemed to be that difficulty to compare across different kind of media buys that came out as one. So there's something going on there. What were some of the other challenges that came out? I think there was things around how the data is being used. So there's a whole discussion that we had down there around, appropriate uses of data. If I make my data available as a retailer, what kind of controls do I have over what that usage looks like? Because it might impact me further down the line. Yeah. And again, that's why the sort of packaging up makes more sense from a retailer where their brand is so important, right, for their core business. Many of these have been around for 50, 100 years, right, in some cases. So I think that was part of it. And then I think on the brand side, we had some really interesting engagement downstairs from some of the brands. And they were talking still around some concerns around transparency and wanting to see, where it was being delivered and were the right kind of tools being used to ensure it was, I wouldn't say brand safe necessarily, but there was a sense that they're used to buying other types of media where they have these controls and these reports and transparency. And I think there's a challenge there to the retail world to say, as you're operating more and more like a media business, you need to level up to that kind of level that the brands feel confident in. And we certainly heard that today.
Yeah, I mean, I that actually did stop and make me think for a while, because I was there in the session. My feelings on it were, offsite. If bought via a DSP, that all of the programmatic trading, for that advertiser already happens, they're likely, particularly a lot of the clients that we work with, we have golden rules in place already, to ensure brand safety, at all times across all campaigns. I think the problem comes in is when more nascent platforms try to actually operate this and they can't integrate with those brand safety measurement providers. Your double verifies, your IAS, etc. So that one for me, I thought some of the points of view didn't exactly make sense, because that was my feeling on it.
Yeah, I think there's a challenge there. I would look through the lens here of that's an opportunity.
Yeah.
So if I'm a retail media network and I have an offsite proposition, I now know I need to almost be leading with, this is how we operate from a brand safety perspective. These are the guardrails we have in place. This is the classic kind of like whitelist that we're running against of sites, or when we run on a social media platform, these are the controls that we have in place to give that sort of transparency back to the brand. So it's an opportunity in some ways.
Cool. Okay. So final question on this topic. What do you think needs to happen for offsite retail media to really deliver? So we saw the chart earlier from Daniel Knapp's presentation showing that offsite is going to be the biggest growth driver. I think it was like 40% with a 3-year.
It was
CAGR.
double pretty much what any other the growth was there for. It was like double for offsite. Yeah.
So I mean, what's the biggest thing that needs to happen to deliver on that premise?
Oh, that's a big question. I think
you're a big man in the industry, so you can answer.
I don't know about that. Let's see. I think so. One of the things that came out of the research, I think there's a common thread that runs through retail media, which is how do we make this thing easier to buy? Yeah. And I think one of the things that came out of the research was, would it be advantageous to you as a retail media buyer if you could buy all of the retail media channels on offer in one place, right? And I think we're seeing the beginnings of that. I think some retailers are starting to put like an offer together. We hear a lot about how internally, from an operational perspective, I'm having to, use spreadsheets for my cardboard in store. I'm using like one ad server for my display. I'm using a different ad server, et cetera, and it's kind of a mess. So as much as possible to kind of bring that into one place. Yep. So offsite is not necessarily going to be the only channel that a retail media platform can offer. So as much as possible, it's like saying, okay, what is it you're looking for? What are you trying to achieve? Okay, that's going to be like a mix, right? There's going to be an element of display on site, an element of sponsored search, and then we'd also recommend we could run against these kind of target audiences. So as much as possible, having the kind of activation and reporting in one place, the ease of buying will improve over time. So I think that's a kind of challenge to the industry.
+1 from me on that.
Love
100%, from a big agency group. So, final quick fire.
I thought that was the final question.
No, that was the final question on that topic.
Okay, all right.
But this one, this is one of those fun kind of quick fire questions that I hate getting myself. So therefore, I'm going to take great pleasure in asking you. Can you sum up the Retail Media Impact Summit in 3 words?
In 3 words?
3 words. No pressure.
3 words. I would say impactful. No, I can't have that.
Good
okay,
one.
in 3 words, I would say it's been provocative. It's been certainly engaging, and I would say insightful.
Provocative, engaging, insightful. Thank you very much, Paul. Always a pleasure. Love talking
Always a
to
pleasure.
you. And we'll catch up soon.
Good to see you.